All right, we are going to honor those that are on time. We're going to get going. Our subject today, our topic, is how Techify has saved 20 plus hours a week with Claude and the 5 ways that we did it. So I'm excited to be, we've got an action-packed webinar today. I'm excited to be joined by Mr. AJ Kotze. AJ, welcome.
Hi, thanks, Brendan.
AJ is our Director of Innovation, which means he is our resident AI genius. He spends his days in a small office taking all this AI stuff and making beautiful things happen.
And then Brendan comes up with even more ideas, and then I need to build those as well.
That's my role. My name is Brendan Howe. I'm the CEO of Techify. Excited to get into what's a great topic and a whole bunch of interesting stuff that we have for you. If you haven't yet answered the poll, please take a minute and fill out the answer. We have about 50% of people that have responded to the poll so far. So please make sure that you answer. So far, AJ, our poll results are saying people are most interested in project management and second most interested in finance. So that is awesome. That's interesting feedback. Okay, so let's go on. Here's our agenda for today. We are going to take you through 237 AI use cases. 237. So here's the deal, folks. We get feedback all the time. Everybody's excited about AI. They want to implement AI. They're looking for ideas for how to do it. So we had a great AI summit in May, half-day event. And one of the sessions, one of the most popular sessions, we went through all sorts of different use cases. And so we've taken a bunch of the material from that session and we brought it forward today into this webinar format. Now, we're not going to spend 237 minutes going through 237 use cases, but we're going to make sure you get a bit of a taste of this. So, but let's give a little context and background, and then we'll get into the meat of it. We all want results from AI, and the way that we get results is through intentional adoption. So this is the message that we keep delivering, and this is our experience over the last 3 years, is everybody's wanted to take this amazing potential that AI has and achieve the potential, get out of the potential. And here's what intentional AI adoption looks like. It looks like your strategy, structure, and people. Looking at your approach for your company and saying, okay, what's our strategy, what's our structure, what's our people? And those that have been on our webinar before will know that when we talk about strategy, we talk about technology, data, strategy, use cases, building the roadmap, proactive IT approach. And what we're going to narrow in today is the use cases and the roadmap. And so we're going to give you a bunch of different use cases. And then when you have a bunch of different use cases or examples of how to use AI, then that is how we build out roadmaps, and that's how we build a direction. So we're going to dive into that today. On the structure side of things, and we can dive, if anybody's interested in going through this in a little bit more detail. I'm just going to go through it quickly because I want to get to the meat of our webinar today. But if you want to go into it more detail, we'll give you an ability to do that at the end. On the structure side, we think everybody needs a 3-month implementation cycle, making sure you have monthly training for your staff, analyzing adoption data, ensuring there's best practices, auditing and alignment, monitoring and training agents. And from a people perspective, we need to make sure we've got somebody leading AI strategy. We need to make sure we have somebody managing our digital workforce. We need to make sure we got a success team so that we have a good approach to change management in our organization. We've got to have that cybersecurity expertise as well. So there's a bit of a background. What's a strong roadmap look like when we talk about it? Well, a strong roadmap has three different parts of it: assistant strategy, an agent strategy, and a custom AI strategy. So when we talk about use cases today, we're going to talk about both assistant and agent use cases. And so those two parts of the roadmap. So then when you're thinking about your roadmap for your organization, what can we do with assistants? What can we do with agents? We need to have those use cases. And really the potential that we're trying to unlock here is the ROI of AI. And so here's a calculator that we built. We use this as part of our AI adoption process and AI appraisal process. This is an example for the potential for a 32-person company. If they were to deploy AI assistants, this is just from an AI assistant level. If they were to deploy AI assistants across their company, it would cost about $14,000 a year. The potential for them is they could save 7,400 hours. And that would lead to, from a license perspective, investment alone would just lead to a 33 times return on investment. And so this is based on a bunch of research from Stanford, McKinsey, and Microsoft. And we've built this calculator to get people to see a little bit easier the potential of AI and the potential of an assistant strategy. And you can see down below, 5 hours a week, an executive can save 3 hours a week for admin, 5 hours for sales, almost 5 hours for finance, that sort of thing. So these are the type of things that we're going to unlock. So that looks great, right? Looks fantastic. Not sure I really believe you. What are the different things that we can do to unlock those 5 hours a week? Well, let's go through that. But before we talk about the technical side, we also need to make sure that we remind everybody and we keep track of the new 80-20 rule. And so we're moving into a phase. My son was showing me an article this morning that said businesses are now hiring back the people that they fired. That they said, oh, AI is going to take their jobs, so they got rid of a bunch of people, and then it's taking a while to train AI, so they're hiring the people back. And there was this article about this, and it's funny. I just kind of laughed at it because I think we're going into a hard phase of AI adoption. This is where the hard work, right? It's not easy, and the reason that it's not easy is because the easy part's the technology bit. And this is the 80-20 rule comes from PwC, and they talk about technology delivers 20% of the value of the other 80% comes from how the organization adapts. So it's really easy to send out the tools and the platforms and use the technology, which much harder is to get your organization adapting and changing. Okay? And in order to do that, we need to have this intentional AI adoption. And that adoption requires a new mindset that we're not looking at AI like a tool, we're looking at it like a digital workforce. And that's the whole focus of today. How can we deploy that digital workforce? So if you look at your org chart in your company and you've got your regular org chart, you've got people and you're sort of people focused, the org chart of the future, we're looking at our people and then we're saying, how do we link digital labor to everybody across our company? And that digital labor can be assistants, it can be agents. And if we're intentional about it, we're mapping out and saying, okay, a marketing person, the way that we're going to get this work done is not just by a person, we're going to deploy digital labor as well in the way of AI. So we move from humans being in the middle of every process to humans supervising a network of agents and digital labor and stuff like that. So that's our kind of preamble. That's our set the stage. Let's, where do we go from here, AJ?
So we start at the tippy top, and Hugo is on here. You folks can't see him, but he leads up the marketing side of things. So let's talk about marketing first. So marketing has so many use cases, and there they are on screen right now. You can do designs, you can brainstorm campaign ideas, you can do AI drafted newsletters, webinar descriptions. You can analyze campaign data. I can tell you right now, after this, a lot of the content that we've put into this and a lot of the feedback that we're going to receive back into the AI engine so the AI can learn from this. And this is only the assistant side of things. Let's look at what the agents can do. Now, think about the agents as automating those everyday tasks that someone needs to do. If you had someone automatically doing those things, that's where the true time saving comes in. So assigning your leads to sales, generating post-campaign reports, summarizing your client sentiment. We do that at Techify already, so that you can get all that data and get the agents to do all of this work automatically. So here's an example of building a brand and marketing agent. So we've got a prompt, the prompt itself also generated by AI. We're going to feed it some data and we're going to set up this particular agent. Now this one is for brand and marketing to align things to our brand voice. And that's exactly what this is for. So we had a need for this, and so we just built an agent.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have this sort of situation. We decided to add some Copilot examples here too. I know we said in the name of this webinar that we were going to have it Claude focused, and we are. We have all sorts of examples from Claude, but there's tons of use cases that you can use Copilot for as well.
Exactly right. So now that we've built that agent, how do we speak to it? Well, you speak to it exactly the same way you would do another employee. How many of us use Teams? And if you want to tag someone, you just put in the @ and there you go. And now you can send that message directly to that agent, and that agent will use the context and the prompt that you've already built into it to run through that instruction and tell you and give you feedback on a particular piece that you maybe want to put out there in public. So that's how you pull in that particular agent to do some work for you.
So you don't have to reach out to the marketing agency anymore to ask these questions.
Nope, you just send it directly to your marketing agent.
Okay. That's probably a little bit less expensive than maybe the agency fees. Okay, let's talk about number 2. We promised 5. Here's number 2, finance. So finance is the home to many repetitive manual tasks. There's huge opportunities within finance. So we have lots of use cases. So from an assistant perspective, all we have to do if we arm our finance people with an assistant, it can help them summarize financial reports, draft presentations, analyze spreadsheets. It can help them draft emails, generate forecasting assumptions, all sorts of different reporting. There's tons and tons of things that our finance people do on a day-to-day basis that seem to reoccur either daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or annually. So if they recur and they're based on specific things and they don't require creativity or intuition, it's simple binary yes or no. It's a great use cases for AI. So there's tons and tons of opportunity. And we're working on some client projects right now that are sort of spanning between assistants and agents and figuring out how to really change the way that the finance function works. And so from an agent perspective, we can monitor overdue invoices. There's a lot of receivable stuff. There's a lot of payable stuff that we can do. We can alert teams to budget overrun. We can track approvals. We can do forecasting. We can detect duplication, right? We can surface cost saving opportunities. I can tell you even on a personal level, if you're not using an agent to do your personal finance for you, it's so easy to set up and train. You'd even do it with an assistant. You don't really need an agent. You set up an assistant, set up a project, and have it monitor your personal finances for you, and upload your bank statements and your credit card statements and analyze them against budget. It's a great use case. So one of the things that is a manual repetitive process in a lot of finance people is accounts receivable. So we went and built a accounts receivable agent. And so this was done through Copilot Studio, and what this does is it connects to QuickBooks, connects to a couple other data sources within our company, and analyzes outstanding receivables. And we figured out that our finance person was spending at least 8 hours a week following up on overdue receivables. And so a lot of that was just manually contacting and asking people to pay, and the automated notes that were coming from like QuickBooks weren't having much of an effect. So we created an agent to solve that issue. And we mapped out our accounts receivable process, and then we drew a line around the stuff that we figured AI could do. So there's always going to need to be a human in the loop. You can't automate the whole thing. And if you automate the whole thing, it's probably a bit of a recipe for disaster. But we figured out what are the parts that an agent could do. So, and we've rolled out this agent that now follows up on overdue accounts. So if you're a client of ours and you get an email, it may be coming from an agent, but it also triggers in workflow for certain things if it's time to get a human involved, if it's time to make a phone call, it'll trigger that and run it. This is another area where huge opportunity in terms of analyzing things. So people are used to having financial analysts and looking at stuff and comparing data. The speed and the effectiveness that you can have, we use Claude all the time to analyze different bits of data, analyze inputs, look at margins, stuff like that. Huge opportunity. I could go on about finance forever, but we should probably move on to number 3. AJ, why don't you tell us about customer service?
Indeed, this is something that's very close to my heart, and this is where I started with Techify. And I wish that 6 years ago we had the technology that we had today, because I'm a bit of a technovore, and therefore I would have used all of these tools. So let's go into the assistant side of things. So AI can help you draft responses to your customers. Communication sometimes is such a large gap, so you can set the tone so that it's consistent throughout. And you can solve a lot of problems using AI because of that consistency. So in the technical realm, for our service desk, they're a bunch of technical folks, and sometimes they need help solving a technical problem. And they can put in the entire technical problem into this assistant, and the assistant can give them a path forward so they can start to figure out the idea. But what if that's simply not enough and you need to be a little bit more proactive on it? This is where agents come in. Now on the agent front, you can build an agent that does the triage for you. The idea being remove the friction. Remove the friction, remove the amount of clicks necessary to actually find details about what exactly the customer's needs are and how I can satisfy that customer. So it can handle workflows. It can escalate automatically because it reads the context of the ticket, it reads the context of the customer experience, and it can give you direct feedback on that. And after that, it can report back on it.
Yeah, and I think every business has a customer service component to it. And we're always trying to, as business leaders, figure out how do we get ahead of issues? How do we identify potential concerns? Because, you know, no business is perfect. No person is perfect. There's going to be issues. What if we can find out about them before our clients or our customers alert us of those problems? And it's a great use case for AI.
Exactly right. So, like I said before, automatic triage of a ticket and gathering information is sometimes the thing that takes the longest. So why wouldn't I just get that out of the way? And this is what Techify has built. So what you're seeing in front of you, there it goes. What you're seeing in front of you right now is Encyclopedia Techify. And the problem that we're trying to solve here is how do we get our technical staff moving faster so that you don't have a response time that's longer than what it needs to be. And this cuts down ticket times immensely because it brings up all of the context in the ticket that you need. And as you can see, it's just a basic triage that we're putting into this ticket, giving a little bit of context as to exactly the problem that's being experienced by the user on the other end. We do the basics. We pick an issue and a category, and we do all of the basic stuff that the staff would regularly do. But now the magic happens. When we start to scroll down here, we will see that the AI has now read the entire context of the ticket already. and it's produced an AI context card, sending the technician exactly to the portion of the system that they need to get to. Usually they would go digging through this information in all these type of subsystems to get the information. Now it just spits it out. But it doesn't really just stop there. It also gives them the summary that they need, because sometimes what comes through can be very vague. This system pulls in from a bunch of different systems, and it unmasks all the true data. Then it reaches out to the system that actually manages all the endpoints and says, hey, are there any alerts on this particular device that might be related to this particular ticket? It goes to the documentation platform and it does the exact same thing. So usually this would take a lot of time to go search and collect all this data, even before we've spoken to a user on the other side of the line. So this reduces that amount of friction that every technician needs to go through 20 times a day.
So what I would add to this is think about your business and think about where you have similar friction, where people are doing repetitive tasks all day long, where they have to access different types of information, right? Different data sources. So if somebody's got to access a bunch of different data sources, which this was the case, is sort of 5 or 6 different data sources, they've got to go check and pull this information and then gather the information together and make a decision, make a call, that sort of thing. I think all of our businesses have versions of that. Right? Think about this use case that you can pull this information from different sources, pull it all together, analyze it, surface it for the role for the individual, and make their life a heck of a lot easier. All right, let's talk about project management. So I think there might be a few people that do some project management on the call based on the poll. So here's an area that we use assistance quite a bit for. And so we'll use assistance in project management for project summaries, updates, status reports, timelines, creating statements of work, proposals, building out presentations, plans, that sort of stuff. There's so many things that happen in the course of a project that need to be summarized, that need to be reviewed, that need to be documented, that need to be communicated. If your project managers do not have an assistant or not well versed in using assistants on an ongoing basis, there's a huge opportunity here to save time. Lots of different use cases. And then if you think about the agent side of things, if we're deploying an agent, then we're thinking, okay, our project management workflow, what are the different workflows that we can get an agent to use so we can get tracking, we can get monitoring, we can detect issues, we can escalate, we can look at different patterns, we can trigger notifications, right? We can coordinate meeting follow-ups, creating tasks. We can, hey, scope creep. Anybody ever had a scope creep of a project? Sometimes there's all these sort of things with project management that we rely on humans to do. But they're simple, some of them are simple kind of binary stuff. You don't need super advanced AI to do it. AI can just pick it up and see, right? So here's an example of an agent. And so we built a project monitoring agent. And this, I think this is an example out of ChatGPT. So we wanted to go a little cross-platform with this and make sure that we had examples from ChatGPT and from Claude and from Copilot as well, because a lot of people use different platforms. So in this case, this is a monitor to understand and sort of surface updates and issues and see any problems with projects, right? And be able to monitor the status of it, which is something a lot of project managers do. They've got their sort of hands in multiple different projects and they're monitoring status. If we create an agent and we say to the agent, here's what it looks like. Here are the different things that we want to watch for. Here are the different things we want to monitor from an agent perspective, or sorry, from a project perspective. We can train our agent to do that, and we can have that level of oversight for our projects. And so then our project managers are dealing with the exceptions and are actioning that sort of stuff as opposed to finding it. So the whole idea with a lot of these things is a great use case is identify the issues, so then we can then go and action them, deal with them, have a look at them, that sort of thing.
What I really like about that particular workflow is that you could see that it runs on a schedule, but it doesn't always need to run on a schedule to go do the checks and balances. Some systems allow what we call a webhook that actually just sends a signal. So whichever system you're running on might have that webhook that can just send a pulse to your agent and then make the agent run automatically the moment that something is off.
Okay, so we saved, thanks for that ad. We've saved the best one for last. And this is the HR one, the HR example. And this is like Claude on steroids. AJ, do you want to take us through a little story?
Yes, I will. So we have a very passionate, very energetic HR leader here at Techify. Recently started, and the first thing she says is, I need an HRIS. And so the begging began. So she went to Brendan, and we started looking, and Brendan said, absolutely, let's build this thing. So as leader of the innovation team, Brendan came to me, and we scoped it out, and we started building this platform. Now, what we needed was a HRIS system, something that plugs into our EOS, which is our company operating system. We needed a lot of different functionality. We couldn't find a platform anywhere that did all of this. So
yeah, the part that was frustrating with me is I understood. So we had this new people leader, and she's like, I need this software platform. But when you look at so many of these platforms, they're kind of generic. It wasn't us. It didn't match our approach. We were gonna have to change as many processes as we would upload into the thing. It would take us, we realized it would actually take us longer to change our processes and configure the stuff in the application than ultimately it would take if we just built it ourselves.
exactly, because then you get a tailor-made solution just for you. A lot of these platforms, one does a little bit of this, one does a little bit of that. At the end of the day, you end up with 5 platforms just to do one single thing. So we went ahead and we built it because we couldn't find anything to do it, which made our HR person extremely happy. And there she is. So let's
What did she call those? High kicks?
Yeah, high kicks. Which she does every morning when she comes into the office now that Empower is in place. But let's talk about how you can supercharge your team by using Claude. And like I said, we went searching and we did a deep dig to find a platform that did it all. We couldn't find one, so we built one. We started from scratch, and we actually built a custom system that is for everything that we'd love it to be. So
yeah, it was live. AJ, wasn't it live within 2 months?
It was. So the first iteration of this was live within 2 weeks. It went very quickly. And once you have that starting building blocks, things just take off from there. It is really rocket stuff.
Yeah, and so just a side note for folks to recognize here, if you see your stocks in the SaaS world going downhill, that's because the buy versus build paradigm has dramatically changed. So people are now saying, hey, it doesn't take as much effort to build as it used to. So people are now looking at, hey, part of our technology strategy is building out and building something custom to us, the way that we do things as a business, as opposed to just paying more subscription fees to private equity-backed SaaS companies, which they're wonderful and everything, but it doesn't always work out.
Exactly right. So the Empower platform is a singular platform. It's that single pane of glass which everyone always talks about. It's got 25 functional areas. Of the 40 plus modules, 30 have already been built, 8 integrated systems overall, and over 90,000 lines of code, all written by Claude. So guided by human, but written by Claude. So that's the really important part to remember here, is that Claude did all of this. I did the architecting, Claude did the building. But let's look at what it actually looks like at the end of the day. And here is the Empower platform. So first thing you'll see is a dashboard, which gives you your week at a glance. You've got all your to-do items there. This is an example of a weekly summary. Now, Brendan gets these every single week from every one of his leaders. Then there is the VTO. Because we run on EOS, we want all that data together. Another example, the accountability chart. What accountabilities does everyone have? And how do we see them at a glance? Then we go and we look at our company rocks so that we know what initiatives we're pushing forward. And these are all absorbed and built into the system. P&C dashboard, so people and culture can actually see exactly the health state of the people side of the business, who has a birthday and who doesn't have one, who doesn't
Wait, hold
have.
on. Claude doesn't have a birthday.
Claude doesn't have one. It's an oversight on my part. Just so folks know, we've actually registered Claude on our accountability chart as digital workforce, and he has his own accountabilities, which he's accountable for. On screen right now, you can see the rocks again. Those are individual rocks, but we went a step further and said, we need to do performance management. So we built a performance management module directly into the Empower platform. Now, this part Brendan hasn't even seen yet. That is the pace that we have with the development of this platform, is we've got people kind of running behind at this point. We can see our AI licensing. It's ingested directly from Microsoft, from ChatGPT, from Claude. It brings in all that information. Pay bands. Something is generally a struggle because every company seems to do it differently. We found a centralized and international standard to which Techify now does our actual pay bands. And here we can see a career development plan. Everyone always talks about training and certification. Now you have a place to put all of it. And that is, at its core, what this platform was built to do. Now, as you can see, we're in version 5.2, and there's been over 300 different updates. And the changelog is long and comprehensive. But this is what I've been able to build in about 4 months' time.
Yeah, and it's amazing. It's gone from something very tactical and HRIS to something very strategic that's part of our people strategy moving forward to we're going to create a completely different experience for people that work for Techify than they're used to for any kind of company. And we're using this platform. And by the way, this is not a demo because we're becoming a SaaS company and we want to sell this platform. This is us trying to show you what the opportunity is with AI, what the capabilities are out there. This is an example of what you could do. So think big when you're thinking about your AI strategy for your company.
Exactly. Think big, but think limitless, because that is the limit at this moment in time. There is no limit. The limit is your imagination, but start with a good plan. So here's how to build your own. Think about what you want, visualize it, scope it out, do a brain dump and frame the entire thing. Get the AI to actually help you build and tell you what's possible. So that's the innovation portion. Then we move on to creation. And this is the part that I absolutely love, where we get that first working version on the table to the folks that need it. You don't need a CS degree for that. And you can do it in weeks, not years. And you're not going to pay an arm and a leg to get there. Then finally, iterate. Now that you're getting live feedback from real people in your organization, take that feedback, give it back to Claude, and iterate on top of what you've already got. And you, like I said, you don't need to be an engineer to do this.
That's awesome. So then we have the end result. Do we have a bit of a digital workforce here? I think we move beyond just those 20 hours a week, don't we, AJ?
Absolutely. We've moved to a very special place where we're never stopping saving.
Yeah, it's sort of, there's an infinite possibility here. Um, so I'm just going to stop for a sec because I see a question in the chat. Please, if anybody has questions, we've got about 5 more minutes of content, and then we'll circle back. Actually, you know what? I'm going to finish the content, and then we'll circle back to the question. Anybody that has any other questions about that, please pop them in the chat, and then we'll make sure that we come back to it. So here's how we want to wrap this up: is we want to transform using AI. We want to transform the right way, right? So we want to have that strategy, structure, and people approach. And so if you're sort of looking at this, like, we've blown through 237 different use cases. Like, we thrown a lot at you today, right? And so we wanted to throw a lot of ideas, a lot of suggestions, and put that out there as quickly as possible. To, if you want to dive into in more detail, if we whet your appetite, we've created something that we've now been doing these AI appraisals for the last kind of 6 months or so, and people are getting a lot of value out of them. So we're quite happy. Anybody that's interested in this, go to that QR code, or you can send us an email if you prefer. What we do is we do a guided evaluation of where AI can create value for your organization. We'll pinpoint any blockers, security gaps, any governance issues. We'll help you identify AI use cases for your business, and we'll help you develop a high-level 12-month AI roadmap. We'll also go through our ROI calculator with you, which is structured process for looking at the different opportunity where you can go in utilizing AI if you rolled out a assistant strategy across your company, what the potential ROI is with that. We've got an agent calculator as well. If you're looking for an understanding of the financial returns, you see an example there for a company with 61 employees, what the impact potential is. And then further down, the other thing that we provide is a bunch of different use cases, as I mentioned, and it's a great tool to give people sort of thinking, okay, what by role, how could we use AI, what parts of how can we superpower our people from an AI perspective, and you can kind of see their role by role. So that is our content for today. So we're happy to answer some questions. We will also, as you're leaving, ask people to just give us some feedback. Let us know, what did you think of this? We did a little bit of a different approach today in terms of the webinar and the use cases and stuff like that. And so we'd like to get your feedback on that. So please rate it. In terms of questions, AJ, Errol had 2 quick questions, and then I think a third question. So let's go. We can go through those in order. So, what would the appropriate Claude subscription look like to support a company with a single developer/architect to empower a team of subject matter experts as well as an administrative support team?
That's a very comprehensive question. I love it. A lot of detail there. And the answer is pretty clear. You want to go for a Claude Teams subscription. It's actually the same subscription that Techify runs on. And the honest truth about this is you might start with one person doing it, but a lot of other people will get jealous and want to get into that. So get a Claude Teams, and you've got a lot of control over what type of seat that person will have. Will it be a standard seat or a premium seat? A premium seat has 5 times the tokens that a regular seat has, and that's what I would give to that developer and architect, and then put everyone else on a standard seat. But everyone can contribute.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I would add with that is there's a lot of shadow AI use. There's a lot of people bringing their own licenses or subscribing individual licenses and stuff like that. And it doesn't, to your second question about controlling intellectual property, if you have people in your organization with individual licenses, you can't control that intellectual property. You can't control what those AI licenses, what they're connecting to. Versus if you've got that Claude Team subscription, you can say, okay, we allow an integration, a read-only integration with our Microsoft 365. We allow this data integration here, this data integration. You can control usage, right? You can control subscriptions, that sort of stuff. There's lots of people that are going crazy on tokens and then being wowed by how much money that they're spending and stuff like that.
Yeah, just on the intellectual property side as well, and it touches on what Brendan just said. You've also got control in a Teams environment or an enterprise environment. You've got control about what you're sending back to Anthropic to train their model on. So you can simply turn that feature off so that you're not giving them information to train their models on.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think Errol also added a question about what about a 4 to 6 week roadmap? He said instead of a 12-month roadmap, which is a pretty funny question. And he said, given that our success stemmed from a 2-week process, it is amazing the speed that you can do this sort of stuff in. And we brought on clients that are like, okay, within the next 3 months, I want to get all of this stuff done. Let's roll. Let's get this project implemented. And you can really move at pace. And there's if we go back to the 80-20 rule, the technical part of it, yeah, sure, AJ rolled out within 2 weeks, but getting everybody to use the thing, it took much longer than 2 weeks, right? Because we've got the human component of it. And that's where it's so important with our AI roadmaps and our AI strategy is that we have that, we think about that human component and, okay, how are we going to get people on board? We had to do training sessions. We had to make sure we set expectations. We had to get our success team involved. We had to, all that sort of stuff. It's like the scaffolding, the structure of the strategy structure, people side of AI adoption. It ends up, that's what takes a little bit longer. The technical stuff can happen pretty quick. All right, so hope everybody enjoyed it. Our goal here is sort of get in and out within 45 minutes and make sure that we don't expand our webinars to a full hour. Hope you got value out of that. If anybody's interested in that AI appraisal process, please let us know. Please reach out if you're interested in any of those use cases or diving into more detail, anything we talked about today. It is a pleasure for us to be able to pass along our experience, our knowledge. We enjoy doing it. AJ, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, folks. Have a wonderful
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.